back to my channel. It's your girl Chef Rambo, and today y'all I'm gonna be making homemade pot roast, homemade baked macaroni and cheese, and this recipe is going to be out of this world. If you guys are looking for a good pot roast recipe or a good homemade mac and cheese recipe, I promise y'all aunties, y'all mamas, and y'all grandmas will not be mad at this recipe, you guys. I will make sure to have everything in the description box for y'all. Let's go. Okay, first steps first, we want to go ahead and boil our water for our elbow macaroni noodles, and then I'm going to go ahead and set my oven to 350 degrees just to get everything all warmed up for me. I like to add a little bit of salt to my water. Once it starts boiling, we're going to add in our elbow macaroni noodles, and this is 16 ounces, you guys, 16 ounces. Okay, I've got 2 carrots cut up, 2 pieces of celery, I've got 5 potatoes, and I've got 1 onion, y'all. So this is the only vegetables you guys will need. Macaroni noodles, almost getting done. They're like al dente right now, so I'm just gonna let them go for a few more minutes. In the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and get my McCormick pot roast bag and season package open. And if you guys do not know what that is, pretty much McCormick has a section for a bag and they have a little section for seasoning, and you actually don't have to add any additional seasonings to your pot roast. You pretty much just, you know, cut along the dotted line with a pair of scissors like I'm doing right now, and it has a spot for the bag and then it has a spot for the seasoning. So I'm just gonna get these cut up for you guys and show you how the process works. There's my little bags, and then there's the seasonings. So you want to go ahead and put your pot roast inside of the bag, flat down. The next thing you want to do is start adding some of that celery, okay? Then we're going to go in here with some carrots, a little bit more celery, and I did not end up using all of my vegetables, but I did use all of my onions. So we're going to alternate between celery, carrots, potatoes, and onions, just to make sure this pot roast gets completely covered with these vegetables. I had to make 2 different ones because my boyfriend don't like vegetables on his, and we do. So for me and the twins, I put vegetables in ours, but not in his. So I know the package only says 1/4 cup of water, but I went ahead and added 7 ounces of water. I put in the McCormick seasoning, and then I added in just a little bit of accent seasoning. And now I'm just gonna take a fork and kind of stir everything up. And then all you do, y'all, is just basically pour that on top of the roast. And like I said, I did add a little bit more water because I like my roast to be really, really tender. But you guys do not have to add that much water, okay? So it comes with like this little twisty thing, and you pretty much just tie it around to prevent it from spilling out. So that looks literally perfect. So yeah, that is how easy it is to make pot roast. You ain't gotta worry about putting it in a pan and sizzling it on both sides, getting it nice and brown. Honey, we gonna make this the easy way. There is pot roast number 1 and pot roast number 2 in a bag, going in the oven for 2.5 hours. If you wanna be fancy, you can do 3 hours, honey. I end up doing 3 hours. So my oven is set to 350 degrees, and let's focus on that mac and cheese. I went ahead and drained our macaroni noodles, and I added in 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of pepper, and that basically is a stick of unsalted butter melted. And I'm just basically gonna pour that in. I went ahead and chopped out my Velveeta, and I added in the 2 cups of evaporated milk. If you do not have evaporated milk, you can use regular milk. So I have 1 little big block of Velveeta, and then I have 2 cans of evaporated milk. Now I'm going to take 3 eggs, and I'm gonna whisk those up, and I'm gonna pour that in my noodles. I didn't want to put them in as soon as they came out because I didn't want the eggs to cook. So yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and take those 3 eggs, whisk them up really, really, really good for you guys, and I'm gonna pour that in my macaroni noodles. This is gonna help the noodles stick together because this is gonna be baked macaroni. We don't want it to fall apart, okay? We want it to be nice and well compacted. I added in 2 heaping spoonfuls of sour cream. This is just going to help with the creaminess. So let's start from the beginning with the mac and cheese. I went ahead and drained my noodles. I added in 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of pepper, and I added in a whole stick of unsalted butter that I did melt in the microwave. If you guys wanted to add more salt and pepper, you can, but it is literally so much sodium in the shredded cheese, and it's so much sodium in the Velveeta. We don't need to add, we don't want this to be super, super, super salty. We can always go back and add in more pepper. So I'm mixing in everything, and once that cheese gets nice and melty, you can just go ahead and pour it right on top, you guys. It looks so freaking good. OMG. And because we already mixed in our Velveeta with our evaporated milk, we don't have to add any more milk to this. We don't have to add any more butter. If you guys wanted to just go along top and add in just a little bit more salt or pepper, you can definitely do that. I didn't do it, but you guys definitely can, okay? So you're gonna mix everything up. We wanna make sure all of those noodles get coated with that delicious cheese mixture, because there's two components for mac and cheese. You have to have melty cheese and you have to have shredded cheese. So yeah, it's perfect. So the next step is we're gonna go ahead and open our Colby Jack shredded cheese, and we're gonna go ahead and put that right on top. Some people like to wait for the mac and cheese to cook for about 15 minutes before they add the cheese. For me personally, I like to add it as soon as I put it in the oven. And I didn't end up using all of the Colby Jack cheese. I probably had like a cup left. However, I'm gonna use mild sharp cheddar cheese, and I'm gonna use the entire bag of mild sharp cheddar cheese. We want it to be nice and even. We want all of those areas of the mac and cheese to be covered in cheese, because every bite of this has to be cheesy. Like, this is literally my dad's recipe on how to bake mac and cheese. This is literally fire. Like, it's so good. Like, I'm not even trying to toot my own. This is probably the best mac and cheese I've ever made in my entire life. And it's so creamy. It wasn't dry. It wasn't burnt. Like, it was literally perfect. So yeah, I know y'all probably like, girl, you talk too much. So yeah, the mac and cheese is definitely ready for the oven. As you guys can see, everything is nice and evenly coated. Like I said, you can go along top with just a little bit more salt and a little bit more pepper, and it's ready for the oven. Okay guys, I want to go ahead and make my sauce a little bit thicker. So I went ahead and took another package of the pot roast seasoning. I added in a half a cup of water, and I added in 1 tablespoon of flour. This is going to help that liquid kind of thicken up, because the best part about making pot roast is the gravy, right? So I took a half a cup of water, I added another pot roast seasoning, and then I took 1 tablespoon of flour, and I'm basically just taking a fork and mixing all this up. After an hour, this is how your pot roast will look. I went ahead and took the bags off, and now I'm just gonna go ahead with that seasoning and water and flour and just put that right on top. This is gonna make this pot roast nice and thick. We'll be back after an hour and a half. And oh my gosh, another hour and a half has went by, and look at our delicious roast. Look at those potatoes. Look at that mac and cheese. You better smack your grandma, you hear me? Look at that mac and cheese. I just add a little bit more salt and pepper on top, y'all. Stop playing with me. Homemade pot roast, homemade cornbread, homemade mac and cheese. And y'all already know my kids are my biggest supporters. Y'all, my kids absolutely adore this meal. My boyfriend loved it. I loved it. This is a great soul food meal to have on Sundays with family. Oh my God, y'all better go in that description box and look up how to make this. This is fire. I'm not even trying to toot my own horn, y'all. The mac and cheese was creamy. You want to let the mac and cheese cook on 350 in the oven for 30 minutes, okay? That's how your mac and cheese should look after 30 minutes. Look at that roast. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.